Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining on the call and for this month webinar. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining in on our call. Please do ensure that you share the link with our community members, our sisters on our group chat and our community group chat. Please let's ensure that we share the link on our WhatsApp status on every social media platform that we are on for them to join, because I can say and by the reason of our guest today that today's webinar promises to be exciting, impactful, and enlightening. I'm very sure that we will learn a thing or two in today's webinar. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining in the Media Girls monthly webinar for the month of June 2025. And this month's theme will be Newscasting with Excellence, every tips that every media girl should know. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining. Welcome, everyone. Please let's encourage more people to come and join in, and it promises to be so exciting. So we'll be kicking off in the next 5 minutes. We already have our guest speaker here, Mrs. Temitope Fagbemi. Thank you so much, Ma, for joining us early. It's an honor. Thank you so much. I also want to thank the convener of the Media Girls Nigeria, Mrs. Oludolako Adewale. Thank you so much, Ma, for this opportunity. Do not take it for granted. So we'll be starting in the next 4 minutes. Please let's ensure that we share the link to everyone. They can either join in here on Zoom or on YouTube. So let's just give a little bit of grace for our community members to join, and we'll kick off in the next 45 minutes. All right, we'll just kick off while our other community members join us and tune in. Once again, welcome everyone. My name is Osemudeme Pius, and I have the privilege of facilitating this session, this monthly webinar session of the Media Girls Nigeria by our convener, Mrs. Oludolako Adewale. We also have an amazing guest speaker here already. But before we bring her up, we just want to quickly do a brief introduction. We at the Media Girls Nigeria, we are very passionate about, motivating ladies that are interested and are passionate about media spaces. Since the beginning of this year, we've been talking about, the fine art of been talking about the fine art of video and television presentation. We've been talking about how to showcase ourselves, how to position ourselves as media personnel, bringing different guests with their different expertise to come and, speak to us. And as someone that has benefited from this monthly webinar, I am very sure that today's and tonight's webinar session will be no different. So welcome everyone. Once again, I want to encourage us to share the link and also to post it on our various social media platform, because as much as we're learning, we also want other people to learn and to grow with us, Today's monthly webinar is themed. We'll be having conversations around the theme Newscasting with Excellence, tips every media girl should know. And we have the amazing opportunity of having a guest speaker, a very renowned media personnel, Mrs. Temitope Fagbemi. Let's just give a round of applause for her. But before she comes up, I'm just quickly going to read our profile, our bio here. While we do that, she will be, getting ready to speak to us from our knowledge of expertise. So, Mrs. Temitope Fagbemi is a passionate journalist with 15 years of experience in television broadcasting. She studied mass communication and media technology at Leeds City University at Ibadan, where she graduated with first class honors. She also has a master's degree in communication and media studies from the Pan Atlantic University at Ibejuleki. Mrs. Temitope is currently working with Arise News channels as a news anchor and correspondent. She loves analyzing local and international politics while holding political office accountable while holding rather political office holders accountable for their actions and inactions while in the office. For Mrs. Temitope Fagbemi, journalism is not merely a career, it is also a service to humanity. Please let us give a round of applause for Ms. Temitope. And I also want to know that she has not only worked with Arise TV, she also has worked with Channels Television as a producer and an anchor of the World News Today and the News Track. We're very, very honored to have you, Ma. Welcome. Thank you so much for
Thank you
hosting
so
us.
much for having me. It's really my pleasure, to be here. And I'm very honored, that you consider me worthy of being able to share a few tips. So thank you so much for having me. And of course, to the organizer, Mrs. Oludolapo Adewale, I'm very, very grateful for the honor.
We're very grateful for answering our call, Ma. Just before we start, we also we want to tell you that we are grateful, and before we understand that you have slides to share with us, based on what you've created for us. But before that, we just really want you to do a brief introduction and to speak to media girls that are joining and currently watching. Just tell us a brief introduction of how your media journey began as probably a young lady, how you got yourself into the media space, how you were able to harness opportunities before we go into what you have for us today.
Well, I think my journey into journalism would have been straightforward, if not that I was a bit stubborn. When I was in secondary school, my best subjects were English, literature in English. I loved commerce. I loved writing, and I was also a member of the press club. I was a member of the school choir. So I really loved to be in the arts. And when I finished from school, initially I wanted to study law, but by the time I got to Leeds City University, they didn't have law, but they had mass communication and media technology, and I knew I could do really well in it. So I enrolled for that, and yes, I did very well. I came out with a first class. But then when I finished, and then I saw my friends, they started getting jobs in banks and telecommunication companies. And then I started calculating like, if I really decide to do this mass communication, I hope I will not be the pauper amongst the group. So, I cried to my dad and of course, pulled a few strings and connections, and then they got me to the bank, for my NYSC. And I can remember spending a miserable, really, really miserable period in the bank. I was a marketer and my vicinity was Ikeja Computer Village. I used every day we were walking around Ikeja Computer Village, going to the garages, looking for accounts. And it was just, I was unfulfilled, I was unhappy. It was just horrible. And I remember speaking to a mentor. He was one of the veterans of the print media. He's in his 90s now, but when I spoke to him at that time, he actually called me out and said, "You are just being greedy. You know where you are is not where you belong. You already know what you need to do. And if you're patient and consistent, the money will come." So I took his advice and, with his help, I was able to finish my NYSC in channels television. And of course, when I got into, even while I was still doing my NYSC, I was already involved in production. I was already doing stock market reports. So I was already getting a feel of what journalism,
Yes.
practicing it, what it was all about. And I loved it. I was happy going to work. I was happy, for a journalist, there are really no off days. You are there weekends, you're there during public
Yeah, no
holidays,
public holidays,
and I
yes.
didn't mind. I didn't mind. I was having so much fun. I was so fulfilled. So when the NYC was over and they offered to make me a staff, of course the pay wasn't so good. But then based on the experience I'd had in the bank, I knew there was no point, just looking for something better when
Yeah, something better.
I know this is where I belong. So that
Yes.
was how the journey started. After my NYSC, I became a staff in Channels TV. I was on the international desk. I used to produce and present the World Today, Network Africa, Diplomatic Channel. And I was also a news anchor. I used to read the news in a news track. So that's how it began. I spent 10 years plus in Channels TV. And
Wow.
after a while, when I just felt I needed something new, something refreshing, something challenging, I
Yeah.
moved and then I got to Arise. And from the international desk, I began to do local politics, and it was really very challenging and it was very tough. I had to do a lot of research. I had to discuss, with a lot of people that I know are very knowledgeable in politics so that I could get a hang of it, ask intelligent questions. And really, that's how it's been going so far. It's been very rewarding. Yes, and like my
Mm-hmm.
mentor told me at that time to be patient and persistent, that the money will come. I can actually say right now that I'm very comfortable. I'm in a happy place, even though I'm still looking forward to doing better and greater things.
Well, thank you so much, Ma. It just shows that hard work pays off. And I
Yes,
think I can relate with where you started your story earlier on when you were saying you were doing something and you were so unfulfilled. I currently just recently graduated and I was also doing something else. I was working as a customer service. But I was just something that I was not really fulfilled in doing because I knew that, I really am interested in the media space and I began to, join groups and I began to, go for conferences. And this is why I'm grateful for a platform and an opportunity like this, Media Girl Nigeria, where they bring experts like you to come and speak to us so that we can learn from you. So we're really, really grateful, Ma. Thank you so much. So the floor to you right now. Over to you, Ma. Can start on what.
okay. I don't know if Madam Dolako can help me with the slides because I'm having issues, sharing. I would really love to share.
Okay, ma'am, you can send it. I'll share it
I've
from here.
sent it to you. Can you please check? I've sent it to you via WhatsApp.
Okay, I've seen it. I'll share it now.
Okay, so let's start in the meantime, as she shares the slides with us. So today's topic is newscasting with excellence, tips that every media girl should know. So once again, I'm very honored to be here with you to share a few tips that I've learned over the years, for all our aspiring and practicing media professionals. I'm also very grateful to our very veteran broadcaster, Mrs. Oludola Kwadewale, who invited me here tonight, for counting me worthy of actually having something to share with you. So I'm very honored and very grateful to be here tonight. Our topic is newscasting with excellence, tip every media girl should know. And I think what that really means is that we want to learn how to deliver the news, not just to read the news. We also want to learn how to own the news, how to connect with the audience, how to make an impact in the minds of viewers or listeners. So I believe we should start with a simple definition of what a newscast is. It's simply a radio or a television program consisting of news reports. That's what a newscast is. And what is news? For the purpose of tonight's gathering, news is a television or radio program consisting of reports about recent events. Who is a newscaster? It is somebody who reads out the reports on television or radio. These are very simple Cambridge dictionary meanings. I don't want us to start going into the textbook meaning. However, I want us to understand that news is very dynamic. It's very fast-paced. It's constantly evolving. And I'm sure right now, that citizen journalism is on the rise. Anybody who has a phone. Anybody who has access to social media now calls his or herself a journalist or a blogger, or anybody can break the news. If you are lucky to be there and you can record and you can post on social media, you've broken the news, which could be good, but also has its downsides, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware. There's prevalence of fake news, there's misinformation, there's hate speech. So what we as professionals need to do to distinguish ourselves and set us apart from the rest, these are the tips that I'm going to share tonight. We need the fundamental principles of excellent newscasting. We need to master our craft so that we leave a lasting impact in the minds of our listeners or our viewers. So the few tips I have to share this night go as follows. The first one is the power of presentation. Having a strong foundation in journalism. I don't mean that you have to go to the university like I did to study mass comm, but if you have that already, you have an advantage. It's a plus for you. But even for those who do not have mass communication as their first degree, it doesn't mean you cannot practice journalism. What it simply means is that if you know you really want to do journalism and you want to do it excellently well, you must know how to read and carry out in-depth research before you even think of stepping in front of a camera or holding a microphone. You need to immerse yourself in the stories that you're going to present. You need to understand it, the nuances, the background, the potential impact of that story. You must be able to conduct interviews, on the news. Even before you go on the news, you must ask reasonable, searching questions that will make an impact in the mind of your viewers long after the interview or the newscast has ended. So in essence, what I mean is you have to go beyond your script. Being a newscaster is not just a case of getting to the office and they present you with some script and you go on air and read it out. You have to be involved in the preparation of the script. You have to read and understand, ask questions, edit your scripts if you need to before you are able to go on air and have a good presentation. You have to fact check. You must fact check relentlessly. Your credibility as an excellent newscaster hinges on accuracy. Double check every name, every date, every statistic, check your pronunciation, make sure that you are really ready for the newscast. You have to anticipate questions. Think of what your audience might be wondering about a certain topic and be prepared to address it, especially if you're going to have a guest. If you're going to have somebody that you'll be interviewing while the news is ongoing. When you're deeply prepared, to cast the news, it shows. You exude confidence. And of course, your audience will trust you because they're looking at not just your words, but they're looking at your body language. Newscasting is not just what you're saying. Your body language, your non-verbal cues is also part of it. The next tip is you have to practice your delivery. You need a strong stage presence. Your voice must be top-notch. Newscasting is not just about relaying information. It is about connecting. Your presence is paramount. Eye contact is key. Even if you're reading from a teleprompter, you have to aim for direct, engaging eye contact with the camera. This will make your audience feel seen and spoken to directly. I hope everyone is still with me because the slides are not moving. I hope I haven't lost my audience.
We can hear you clearly, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So, and then still talking about practicing your delivery, body language matters. I told you earlier that they're reading, they're listening or watching not just what you're saying, your non-verbal cues, your body language. So if you're going to stand to present the news, make sure you stand tall. You stand tall. If you're going to sit, you sit straight with your shoulders back. You don't slouch. Project confidence. Be calm. Avoid fidgeting or distracting gestures. Your non-verbal cues speak volumes and is what will determine whether the audience will accept your message or whether they will reject your message. Your vocal delivery is also very important. Your voice is your tool of trade. Your voice is your instrument. So you have to practice clear articulation, varied pacing. You must know the appropriate tone to use at every time. You want to sound authoritative, yet approachable. A monotonous delivery where you're just reading like you're bored with life will make you lose your audience instantly. And this happens when you yourself don't understand the scripts that you're reading. If you're just reading for the sake of reading, you won't be engaging. You will not, you won't capture the attention of your audience, which is why it's important you must understand what you are reading. You have to practice, 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 practice. Of course, I'm sure we all know that practice makes perfect. When you are alone, practice reading aloud, record yourself, listen back to identify the areas you need to improve upon. Remember that you are the face and the voice of the news, so you must own it. Work on your tone, your pace, your diction. Now that diction, I'm going to, focus on it a bit. In Nigeria, the recognized official language is Queen's English. So if you know that you want to be a broadcaster, if you know you want to distinguish yourself and you want to excel, you must learn how to pronounce your words properly. Don't mix it with American English. Don't mix it with Nigerian English. Don't mix it with the everyday slang. I know some people are doing it now, but personally, I don't believe it's professional. I don't believe, it helps you to stand out and be unique. Your pronunciation must be top notch. And based on that, I have some words here that I would like us to practice. The first one, I've heard some people say lieutenant. Lieutenant is American. So I don't expect any newscaster that is practicing in Nigeria to be saying lieutenant. You say lieutenant. It's lieutenant. Of course, we know this popular bus stop, on your way to Yaba. You hear a lot of people saying Anthony. What does that mean? There's nothing like that. It's Anthony. I don't know if anybody can help me with the third word. I would like somebody to pronounce it for me. The word practice.
Okay, ma. Terrorism.
No, terrorism. It's
Terrorism.
not terrorism. Terrorism. And the next one is laboratory. It's not laboratory. It's laboratory. The next one is representative. It's not representative. You have repetitive. It's not repetitive. Collaborate. It's not collaborate. There's deposit. It's not deposit. So you can see how easy it is for you to make a mistake in your pronunciation if you're not careful. Because, Anthony, terrorism, laboratory, this is how an average Nigerian speaks. So if you don't go, go above and beyond even what you've been taught in school, you really won't know when you're not doing what you should do. So that's why you have to read, you have to research, invest in a pronunciation dictionary. You can ask Google, for the British pronunciation, or you can even ask the organizer of this, of this gathering tonight, Mrs. Adewale. I watch her videos. I watch her on Instagram. She's a very own diction teacher, and she can help. You have to really go out of your way if you know you want to stand out. Now, my next tip is clarity. Your job as a newscaster is to make complex information understandable and accessible to everyone. Avoid jargons. Stay clear of unnecessary and ambiguous grammar or overly academic language. Use everyday conversational speech when you're reading the news. Simple, clear, understandable. Make sure the script you'll be reading is very well structured, which is why you must be part of production. Deliver information in a logical flow that's easy for your audience to follow. Think about your opening, the key facts, the conclusion. Your goal is to inform your audience, not to confuse them. So you must strive for simplicity that retains all the important details in your newscast. The fourth tip is authenticity and empathy. While professionalism is very important, you must also be genuinely human because you are human. That's what separates you from AI. You are not a robot, you are human. So be yourself, be conversational. Don't try to be somebody you are not. Your unique personality, when channeled professionally, can be a powerful asset. You need to show empathy when appropriate. When reporting on sensitive or tragic stories, you must use a genuine, empathetic tone. You cannot be reading about the massacre in Benue State and be grinning from ear to ear or smiling like you just won the lottery. And at the same time, you cannot be reading about a celebratory event, and looking sad or stern like you're announcing an obituary. You build trust with trust of good journalism. Be transparent, be honest. Sometimes we make mistakes. Acknowledge it. If you can acknowledge while the newscast is good, if you cannot, you're into your next news. Your audience is so connected with that. I'm sure we don't have time you can be in the mood to listen to it. But when you see a particular newscaster that you really love and that you can engage with, because of that newscaster, you actually sit down and watch the news. That's trust. The person has been able to engage with you and you're willing to listen. And at times, you want to watch the news and once you see that it's one particular face reading the news, they're like, oh, I'd rather go and watch a movie or something. Another point is we have to be objective and impartial, maintain a neutral stance and avoid bias in your work. It can be very difficult, especially when you have some of these deliberately distorting facts. I remember during the 2023 election when we had a guest on our television station that came to tell us how the Billion Bank missed its way and found itself in the compound of a very important person who just happens to be the #1 citizen right now. And I remember all the time, I was like, what does this person take Nigerians for? How do you lie as if you're into babies? Some people will get emotional and call a liar, but I don't believe you should do that. What you should do is to continue asking searching questions that will make your guest uncomfortable and that will make the guest begin to contradict his or herself to the point that your audience will begin to doubt the credibility of the guest. Your audience will be able to judge and determine, based on how well you have performed as an anchor, that this guest is not being sincere. And of course, once you've succeeded in your job as a news anchor. Now, I know some people listening to me, they disagree and say it's always good to call out the liars on air. I know we have some journalists in Nigeria, that they will tell you, I put it to you, that you are lying. They seem to be very popular, and of course, they have a lot of followers if you check on social media. But for me, I think it's always very important for us to know our purpose as a newscaster before we even go ahead. Ask yourself, what channel is this broadcast? Do I just want to trend? Do I want to increase the followership on social media?
Hello, ma'am.
Do I want to inform the people? Yes?
Yes, your network is lagging, so your audio is a bit not clear.
Oh.
Just for like 1 or 2 minutes ago, it's not been really clear. But I think it's sounding a bit better now. Sorry for button.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I think it's better.
Yeah.
Okay, it's still lagging a bit. Maybe at some point you can turn off your video on and off to see whether it will be better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so is it better now? The video.
Yes, please.
Okay. So as I was saying, I know that some people would disagree and say that it's all to call out the liars on air when you have the opportunity to do so. And I know that we have some journalists that do that and they are very popular. They have a huge followership. But for me, I think it's very important to know our purpose as newscasters. There are some questions I ask myself if I go on air. What do I want to achieve with this broadcast? Do I just want to trend or maybe increase my followership on social media? Do I want to really inform the people and genuinely educate them on their rights? Or do I want to incite the audience to anger and get them on the street to protest? I've heard, a lot of journalists say on air that Nigerians are very docile people and they will take anything. That kind of language, what are you hoping to achieve when you speak like that on air? Your reasons are your own, and all reasons are valid, so far as you know the consequences of what you are doing and you can deal with it. So I believe knowing your why will determine the manner in which you present your news. That's what I've learned in my years, as a newscaster. And then the fifth tip is continuous learning and adaptability. The media landscape never sleeps. The world of media is constantly evolving. What was relevant yesterday might be old news tomorrow. So I believe we need to keep ourselves up to date. We have to stay informed. Beyond your immediate news desk, you must keep up with global events, technological advancement, shifts in media consumption. You have to embrace new technology from social media to AI-powered tools. I struggled with AI initially. I had to go for a training with Google, thankfully, which my office sponsored, before I was able to, learn how to use the Chat GPT, the Gemini AI. I'm finding my foot little by little, but these are things you must do if you want to succeed in the 21st century. You have to understand how these new technologies are shaping news delivery and, of course, how you can leverage them. Then you must seek feedback. Don't ever think you're perfect. You must be open to constructive criticism. Ask your colleagues, mentors. Mentorship is very, very important. That's something that has really helped me in my career. My teachers, my lecturers in university, I keep in touch with them. My bosses, I check in with them. My seniors in the industry, I don't joke with their criticism. I don't joke with their feedback. I read comments once I'm done with the news. When I get home at night before I sleep, I go to YouTube. I watch what people are saying. I read what people are saying, and I adjust where I need to adjust. But I would like us to be a bit cautious when we are reading comments on YouTube. We have the trolls that we have to learn to ignore. These trolls have nothing positive to say. They have nothing valid, nothing useful to add to our lives. So you will not let those comments affect your mood or your performance. Pick the genuine ones and work on them. And of course, never stop learning. Attend workshops, read books, watch other broadcasters. There's always something that you can learn upon. So in conclusion, for me, I think excellence in newscasting is not just about reading a teleprompter or a script. It's about being prepared, having a commanding presence, delivering with clarity, connecting authentically, and committing to continuous growth. It's about being a trusted voice, a source of reliable information, and of course, a beacon of journalistic integrity. That's what newscasting is all about. It goes beyond reading the news. So thank you very much. And I don't know if you have questions for me.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma. That was very fast, clear, and very precise. Thank you so much, Ma. We learned a lot in reading that short period of time. If you're watching on YouTube or on Zoom, you can drop your questions at the chat box. Please kindly drop your questions at the chat box, and we'll take that because we are, running with time. Thank you so much, Ma. I learned a lot. I think I would like to go first when I ask a question. At the beginning of your presentation, there was some words practice there, and I tried to pronounce some words, and hopefully I didn't get it. So it came to my mind, and I was thinking, and my question is how does one balance between like having the right pronunciation, the right British pronunciation, and not you don't want to get to the part where you are, should I say, you are imitating someone else, like another newscaster that you look up to, or you are imitating an accent that you don't have. You want to strike a balance between correct pronunciation and also being authentic. So how, as a uprising aspiring media presenter, how do you get to that part where you want to pronounce words correctly and you don't also want to imitate or mimic some accents or mimic some other person because you want to be authentic? How do you get to that point of like knowing how to balance it?
Yeah, for me, I don't think learning to pronounce properly is a change in accent. I don't think we do them. I don't think
So
we
sorry,
have
Ma.
enough.
Sorry for cutting you short, Ma. We can't hear you clearly.
Okay, so maybe I should keep the video off if it will be better.
All right.
Is it better?
Yes.
Is it better? Can
Probably,
you tell me
yes, it is. Probably you can try and turn it
now?
on because we would love to see your lovely face.
Okay, so I for me, learning how to pronounce properly shouldn't affect your accent. You know, learning how to pronounce a particular word the correct way. And of course, as you practice over time, you get better. I'm not asking you to start speaking like the whites do if you are not very good at it. Because even when you try to fake an accent, it actually shows. It shows, and it
Yeah.
could be very irritating and it could be a turn off, you know. But then at the same time, I don't think because of that, you will not say because I don't have British accent, I will not try and pronounce the way the British people do. What's what doing is what doing well. You know, some of these things, some of these words that we practice tonight, I learned it, on the job. I learned them on the job.
Wow.
When I was in Channels TV, we used to have English classes, and it was compulsory for all anchors to attend. We were taught by the likes of Ted Mukuru, Dimbo Loyede. Those were veterans in the industry of those days, and they were very particular. In fact, then as an anchor, you were always afraid of Uncle Ted. We used to call Ted Mukuru Uncle Ted, because Uncle Ted is sitting down somewhere, is recording all the words that you did not pronounce correctly. So if you know you do not want to be conversation in the next class, you will not wait for Uncle Ted to catch you. We all had on our laptops, all of us had the British pronunciation dictionary. So before you go on air, if you're not sure, you check the word, the dictionary pronunciation, you pick it up, you practice it, go on air. So I'm not talking about adopting a fake accent. If you have a fake accent and you're still not getting the pronunciation, personally, you will just piss off your audience, and that's what you want to achieve. So this is about speaking clearly. Don't rush your words. Don't muddle it up. Speaking very clearly, learning to pronounce properly, and then practicing. Because if you just listen once and you think you've gotten it, most likely you haven't. So you have to keep practicing, keep reading those scripts in your quiet time. Read the scripts. In those days when I started my broadcast, I used to call the scripts. Every time when I'm going home, I will pack it and put it in my bag. And when I get home, 1 hour at night before I sleep, I'll read it again, I'll record it, I'll listen to it. In the morning, if I have the time before I go to work, I'll read again, I'll record it, and listen to it. I used to send it to my members to listen to it, criticize, give me feedback, how you learn how to pronounce properly.
All right, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much. Now we know that, practice makes better, and it's not about, forming accent or mimicking someone else. It's just about learning. It's about learning. Thank you so much, Ma. We're taking questions. It's time for question for our guests. So please, if you have any questions, kindly drop it in our chat box on Zoom or on YouTube. So just for me to do a quick recap of what we learned. We've learned Mrs. Fagbe, Mrs. Temitope shared about, tips on how to start well professionally as a newscaster. She talked about the power of preparation, it's always good to be prepared. She also talked about practicing makes perfect, and I am someone that likes to practice it, especially when I have a session to host. My mirror is usually my best friend, and I practice a lot. She also talked about clarity, being key, building trust, being objective, and continuous learning. We never stop learning. When you learn, you grow. When you learn, you grow. So these are many tips and more that she shared for us, and I really want to say thank you, Ma. We have been enlightened. So a question just dropped in from YouTube, and it says, thank you, Mrs. Fagbemi, for this insight. So a question: is it professionally correct to say I am sorry when you make a mistake while reading? Or what words, or what suitable words does she used to say I'm sorry? What can she say instead of I'm sorry?
You can say I beg your pardon.
All
You
right.
can say excuse me. You know, there words. Personally, I wouldn't say I'm sorry. Some might, it might work for them, but personally, I wouldn't. I prefer to say I beg your pardon.
All right. But I've also heard on other anchors say that, you probably might be the only one that have noticed a mistake. You can just easily continue, or you can say that you can repeat the sentence again, but in the right way. Because if you're saying I'm sorry,
Yes, you
yeah,
can
it
repeat.
gives
Yes,
everybody, it
you
makes
can
everybody know
repeat
that
it.
you've made a mistake.
But the mistake I'm talking about is in terms of facts. Do you understand? For instance, maybe you wanted to say a figure.
Uh,
Maybe you were going to say that 300 people died, and then you went and said 3,000 people died. I think that one you need to pause and actually correct it, because that's a significant mistake that you cannot get over, you cannot overlook.
all
Do
right.
you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Ma. Our other question, someone is asking how she can correct the H factor in presentation.
You have to practice. You have to practice and you have to be deliberate when you're speaking. I know some of my colleagues that have struggled with it. For instance, you want to say egg and you say heck. You know, I know a lot of people that struggle with that, but you have to practice. You have to record yourself, listen to it, correct yourself. In your conversation with your friends, you have to be deliberate. You have to watch it. First of all, find those words that you're struggling with, those words that makes the factor very pronounced, and then write it down. Practice every day. Practice. Repeat yourself. Get your to also watch out for your friends that do not have the H factor. Because if you ask somebody that is also struggling with school, you're really not going to get anywhere. So ask your friends who know the correct pronunciation, who are not struggling with the H factor, to watch out for it. And anytime when you go, they should pause. They should pause you. They should interrupt what you're saying and tell you, you just do this again. Immediately correct yourself. So it's deliberate. You have to make deliberate efforts, and
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma. Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you. I
Yeah,
can
we
hear
we
you.
lost
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yeah, we kind of lost you
Yes.
at the ending where you're talking about making deliberate efforts.
Yes. So I was talking about making deliberate efforts. Ask your friends, your family to help you. Your phone is not just for games. Yeah. Use it for record yourself. Listen to it. Let other people better at it. Let them also listen to it. Thank you, give you feedback, and that's how you learn and get over it.
Thank you so much, ma. It still boils down to the fact that we have to practice, and keep on practicing because we can
And the fact that
never,
you can't do it alone. You can't do
yes,
it alone.
we
It's not
have to
something
have,
you just say, okay, I'm going to do this.
yes, we have
You
to
must
have,
have people holding your hands.
yes, go back to our drawing board, have people that we receive, feedbacks from, and we can work with those feedbacks, yes. Our community member would like to ask a question. Al, you can kindly unmute yourself, please, and ask your question.
All right, good evening. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Good
Yes.
evening.
Atokwe, it's good to see you again. I mean, we had worked together for some years at some point. And I just, yes,
Okay.
when you were in channels, yes, I just wanted to
Can I
ask
know your
a
name?
question. Aramide.
Oh, okay.
So,
Nice to connect with you
yeah,
again.
yes, ma. So, I recall earlier you were talking about at some point when you had to, speak with people who were more knowledgeable in certain fields so that you get to learn from them. I'm at a point in my life where I am trying to carve a niche for myself. I moved from working
Okay.
on the politics desk to also being a business anchor, working with Bosino Mofaye at the time. And now I am with the digital team and I'm trying to carve a niche for myself. How do I go about that?
Based on where you, if it's talking about the business field, then of course I would recommend that you speak, to the professionals, you speak to the known faces, those that have spent decades in that field. You mentioned those in Hawaii, that's a very good place to start.
Ma'am,
I
sorry,
know
I want us to hear you. So can you turn off the video because this is very critical.
oh, okay. So is the audio okay now? Can you hear me?
Yes, better.
Okay. So, I mean, I know that you mentioned Bosun Mofai, and definitely
Yes,
that's a
ma'am.
very good place. That's a very good place to start. I mean, Bosun is an expert in the field. So these are people you need to talk to. I know there's Nancy Ilo, there's Lotus Odiri. Those are the faces that I'm familiar with. You can reach out to them on social media, and hopefully they will respond. And, you can network. From networking, you get the contacts that you need, so that you'll be able to talk to them. And don't even overlook your bosses in the office as well. I don't joke with the feedback from my editors, the director of news. I don't joke with it. These are people that can help you. Watch their presentation as well, watch their reports, watch, just study what they are doing and then pick it up. I'm not saying copy them, because you can never be, you would always, you can never be like the original. What you can do is to learn from them so that you will be better, than they are. So I'm not saying that you should copy them. You don't have to try and speak like them. You don't need to use their mannerisms. Just learn it and look at what sets them apart, from others. And then hopefully from there, you can start carving out that niche for yourself.
Okay. Thank you, Ma.
Thank you so much, Ma, for that, answer to the question. We also have another question here from YouTube, Corporate Chronicles with Ton. She says, thanks for the insightful session. Would it not be awkward to speak with everyday Nigerian in proper English, in proper Queen's English, or is this reserved for the studio?
Well, I'm actually laughing because I remember that when I was in the university, we had a lecturer that used to teach us phonetics. And he used to tell us, the filling station where that everybody calls total, total. And he used to tell us that it's actually total. And we had the filling station then. And he would tell us that even when you're in the box, you must insist. Instead of saying total, wow, make sure you tell them total, wow. And somebody tried it one day. And of course, they drove past the bus stop. They didn't wait, because, and when he got to school and he was, giving us his experience, the lecturer said, no, you did well. You made your points. And in our minds, we're wondering, what points did you make when they actually took you past your bus stop? So I think it's important to know, when you have to speak properly. For instance, you are in a bus, you are going to the popular Anthony, and then you're shouting, Anthony, wow. Anthony, I mean, most likely they might not hear you. Do you understand? So I'm not saying in that kind of situation you go there and you're going to be doing Anthony, wow, Anthony, I'm getting down in Anthony. But then at the same time, you also have to be very careful. Your inner circle, you should be able to speak properly with them. Because if you only keep the Queen's English for the studio, before you know it, your standards will start dropping. So for me, I believe what you're doing professionally, you also have to practice it in your everyday life. When you're having a conversation with your friends, with your colleagues, with your parents, your family member, you must be able to speak properly. For instance, with my children, they know I don't joke with it. If I also say, I'm the daughter of a broadcaster, or I must speak clearly, I said, yes, you are. How can you, and you be saying, Tony, I'm not allowed that. I'm not going to take it. Even with my husband, he knows, he works in the bank. When he's saying, I'm looking for deposits, man, sorry, you're looking for what? And then he'll correct himself, and say, okay, he's looking for deposits. So I believe you shouldn't just keep it for the studio, but you should know when it's appropriate. You should use it with your inner circle, your family members. I think that way you'll be consistent even when you are in the studio.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma, for that question, Ma. But when you were answering another question earlier on, you were talking about, since someone is privy to people around you that know these things that you can, learn from them, not imitate from them. So I'm asking this question from someone from a perspective and from a side that, what if you are just starting in this media journey? You don't probably know anyone, you don't have any mentor in the industry, you've not worked closely with anyone, just like our earlier community member has worked closely with someone, or as she cited that she has worked closely with you. How do you um how do you create such opportunities for yourself? What I mean is that you are looking for so many opportunities, you are training, you are going to many conferences, but you're not getting the opportunities that you get. How do you break into that? Like, you can't just walk up to channels now and say that, most of the time you have to know people, and this kind of thing, I'm speaking from experience. You have to know someone that will probably, make it easier for you or give you a soft landing, or someone that someone that probably give you an opening. So how do you do these things? Because I've attended a conference, I've attended a meeting where, someone was saying that, because, all these channels, they don't probably, when they need a newscaster or they need a new person, a new talent, they don't put it on social media. They don't say, oh, they're looking for
That's
this.
true.
It's from
That's very true.
yes, it's from an in-house circle, in-house connection, networking. So how do you get to that point? How do you get to the point where you're training but you're not getting the opportunities? Someone said that, you have to come and start from the beginning. Even though you have like 5 years experience, if you are going to the big house station, you have to start from the beginning as an intern. So what advice will you give to someone that is, do you advise them to, are you of that notion where you have to start from the beginning, but how do you get opportunities?
If you're really determined and you are very sure that where you want to be is the media, then I will advise that you start from the beginning if that's what it takes. I remember that when I did my internship I did it at Eco FM at that time. I wasn't getting paid, they were not even giving us transport, nothing. And I picked up the phone one day. Somebody called the newsroom and I picked up the phone and I spoke with the person. And 5 minutes later, the person that called walked into the newsroom and said, he just called now to ask to speak to so person. Who is the person that picked up the phone? And I raised up my hand and he said, stand up, follow me to the studio. And that's how I became the presenter of The Window on the World. That was the title of the program at that time. Now, I wasn't being paid. This was a random producer. He didn't even come from management. He just heard my voice, he liked it, and he picked me. And every Friday, we used to do the recording then, every Friday. My school was in Ibadan. So when I'm on holidays, he would tell me to let him know. And when I get back to Lagos, I would call him and say I'm in Lagos, and he would invite me every Friday. And I did that for about 2 or 3 years, even when I was still in the university. Every Friday, I would go to Eco FM and I would record Window on the World. And I wasn't getting a dime. Sometimes, maybe you give me 500, just to use it for transport once in a while. But, what I'm trying to say is, though I didn't earn any money, the experience I gained in that window on the world, I can never forget. Because it was in that window on the world, normally I'm a very serious person. News is my thing. But that window on the world, you have to laugh, you have to do it in a funny, light-hearted manner. I struggled with it, but he pushed me and he kept telling me, you can do it. Don't box yourself into a corner. So that experience, I'm still reaping the benefits till this very day. When I do some voiceovers, where I have to sound light, I have to sound light-hearted, it has to be funny, I remember all that I learned. So for me, if you're determined, if you're really, really determined, and you're not just in this because you just want to become famous or because you are looking for how to get rich quick, give it everything it takes. If you have to start from the beginning, start from the beginning. And we are even lucky now because of social media. If you're not getting the names, why don't you start something on YouTube? Why don't you start something on Instagram? As you're picking up views and followership, you're making a name for yourself. And before you know it, you just don't know where the door would open. So don't close your eyes to any door, no matter how little or how insignificant it looks. That's what I believe.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you for that No precise answer. So we're taking our last question right now because we're very short of time, and it's from YouTube. Lydia Olatunji, she says, "Thank you, Ma, for this insightful session." She asks that as a new presenter, I often struggle with pronouncing indigenous name. Can you share any tips that can help me improve?
I'm going to go back to that practice. So when it comes to Igbo names, I also struggle. So which is why you must read, you must practice your script before you go on air, because it could be very embarrassing if you stumble on those names while you're on air. So what I do is beforehand, I would have read it. Those that I know, maybe they are from the Igbo tribe, I will go and ask them. They will give me the correct pronunciation, and I will make sure I repeat it several times to myself so that I'm sure that I've gotten it. I've gotten a hang of this name. So everything boils down to practice, asking questions, ask for help when you need to. And with time, as you make a deliberate effort, you'll be able to pick it up and you'll get better. And then, of course, one thing I also usually say, if you can skip it, if you can skip the name, I do that a lot, I won't lie. When I'm on air, for instance, when I'm reading all those international news and they're coming up with all those long, tongue-twisting names, if it's not very important, I skip it. If it's the president of the country, that's important, so I can't skip it. But if you're talking about a mayor in a town that nobody has heard of, or if you're talking about a village that is not, I would skip it. If for instance, you're talking about a village maybe in one remote area that nobody knows, I would just say in a village in the country, I would skip the name. So for me, I think it's better to be safe than to embarrass yourself. But for the names that you cannot avoid, and there are a lot of them, you must practice before you go on air. Practice, practice, practice.
Thank you so much, Ma. Can we just react and say thank you in the comment section to Mrs. Temi Tokwe? Thank you so much, Ma. Before you kindly go, our convener, Mrs. Oludolapo, would like to say something as well.
Thank you very much. I cannot thank you enough. I cannot. It's been a wonderful session. I've just been writing both on the YouTube channel and even here. So I want to say thank you so much. I realized that there were messages, there were questions on pronunciation, and you mentioned that as well, saying media girls need to have pronunciation tips at their beck and call. Pronunciation is very key. And some people were mentioning the H factor, the R factor, and all that. And it made me to realize that a lot of work still needs to be done. So on that note, last month we did free diction drills for media girls. I do not know if some people joined that session, because I shared some tips on tackling H factor and tackling some other pronunciation tips. But I'm going to do something again in the month of July. So help me God, because July is very tight for me. So if it's not July, it's going to be August. It will be specifically for mother tongue interferences. I will do another free class for media girls. So please, when the opportunity arises, latch on to that opportunity. So that's what I want to pass across. Specifically, we're going to do mother tongue interferences. Heg will become egg. Orange will become orange. And the reverse. In terms of saying,
I've had a great time. I've had a very great time being here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Fagbemi. I'm super excited that you picked the call to say, yes, I'll be here. I'm grateful, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, back to the host. Thank you for allowing me to butt into your time.
You're welcome, and thank you so much, Ms. Mutakwa. So before you go, can you just kindly share where we can reach you? In case anyone has any more questions.
Email address, I can give you my email address. It's tafagbemi@gmail.com. You can also check me out on TA Fagbemi, A for Apple,
All
TA
right.
Fagbemi at gmail.com. So you can send me a message. I'll be happy, to read your message and respond. I'm struggling with replying messages on LinkedIn, but you can try. You can check me up on LinkedIn too, and you can just leave me a message. Just let me know that you're from the Media Girls Hangouts, and I'll try as much as possible, to reply. Which other? I'm really only active on LinkedIn. I really don't do Twitter. For me, Twitter is a bit too toxic. So the likelihood that I will read your message on Twitter is very low. I think we should stick to Instagram, or you can send me emails.
All right, ma. Thank you so much. We are very grateful for access. We're very grateful for the opportunity, and we hope that when next a convener calls on you, you'll be more than willing to come and teach us again from your knowledge.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for having me.
Thank you for joining, ma. Thank you. Well, we've come to the end of this month's webinar where we learned about, casting with excellence, and where our guest speakers shared, news and tips about, the best way on how to put our best foot forward professionally. This is the Media Girls Nigeria. We have this webinar the end of every month, rather, probably every last Sundays of every month. We want to encourage everyone that is joining to please always keep it with us every month. Keep it in your calendar, the last Sunday every month. You can join us on YouTube. And if you want to also, join the community, you can also reach out to Mrs. Oludolapo Adewale if you want to join the community. And you can also if you're on YouTube watching us, you want to join the community, please kindly indicate where we'll send you the link. Thank you everyone for joining. I don't know if our convener has any last words to say. Ma'am, do you have any words to say, Mrs. Dolakwa?
Okay, thank you so much. Not exactly, but I'll just, well, I do now that I'm talking. If you'd like to join the Media Girls Nigeria community, I've sent my number 08038380173. I put it on the YouTube channel as well. So you can join, and we do this every month. Thank you once again for being part of tonight's webinar. I'm super grateful that everyone turned up. And to our anchor for tonight, you're phenomenal. Well done. And keep soaring.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you for this opportunity. Good night, everyone.
Good night.